to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it Wednesdays here at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, the feel-good edition. Midweek, halfway home, and plenty to get into between boat rides and sea legs and quarterback offers and all that good stuff. Great to be with you. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Numbers to dial us up at 466-3776. 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. Follow us, find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio. Chris Schmidt at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. Mike Babcock in about 20 minutes. We'll talk some Big Red with him. Mike Schuart, Wilderness Ridge. Shuey's got the old snow beast out. I'm fairly confident out at Wilderness Ridge. Andy Markowski, the pride of Ord, Husker standout, and of course assistant with the machine that is known as Pius Girls Basketball. Markowski is going to be with us. Can't wait to talk with him. George Darlington, longtime Nebraska assistant, will shed some light on Bill Busch back to Nebraska. And then we'll talk about that monstrous turf toe that Patrick Mahomes had surgery on today. Dr. Ben Woodhead with us, a jock doc from Lincoln Orthopedic. Got your numbers, get in, and let's talk. Before we get to Nebraska, Wisconsin, before we dive into some of the quarterback offers for Nebraska football in 2022, let us talk about a sight many of us thought we'd never see. A human, let's let my hair down, or in today's case, put my hat on backwards, Tom Brady. Super Bowl parades have been quite straight-up freak shows. Between Travis Kelce going full wrestling guy and his brother, Philly's Super Bowl parade was straight-up grotesque in some instances. Well, with Tampa, you're on the water, and you can do a boat parade, and oh boy, the Bucs did a boat parade. And what is trending now on Twitter is drunk Tom Brady. And you just didn't think you'd... Listen, A, is it real? B, is he just a little seasick? C, did he have a few wine coolers? That's what we got to dive into, is if Brady is in fact a little bit lit with the sun and the water and the alcohol, because the guy drinks 7,000 glasses of water a day. He eats almonds. He eats chicken every day. And I'm sure he got a workout in. In fact, he is probably working out right now to get the toxins out of his body. What do you believe? You think he just finally let his hair down? And you got to be so buttoned up and corporate. I mean, Gronk can be the big dumb animal. We love him, but he's the one catching beers and shotgunning beers in sub-zero weather. This is new for both of them, not celebrating a Super Bowl, but celebrating a Super Bowl in shorts and a T-shirt.
Tom Brady looks like he's walking down O Street at 2 a.m.
Oh, doesn't he? He's headed right for Lazari's, baby.
Well, like, I mean, did you see him toss the Lombardi trophy from one boat to another?
Right,
Tell
yes.
me he would do that sober.
Well, it was...
Come on now.
Well, I think he was challenged. I bet you can't complete this, okay? And I don't know if... Think about that. Think about the fact if it's truly the Lombardi trophy that he's underhanding, grannying from one boat to the next, there's no way that's not a replica. That can't be the real one. I mean, Tampa doesn't happen every year. I mean, you're 20 years between Super Bowl trips and Super Bowl wins. If it is the real one, good on them. And he's got to have something other than TB12 electrolytes throwing through them veins today. If Brady's in Tampa, Brady seems to me like if he's going out with the linemen back in the day, he's buying the pitchers. They're all getting steaks. And Brady also seems to me like he can quite easily throw on a turtleneck, a corduroy sport coat, and have cigars and brandy. All right. I think he can do that as well. But if you're down in Tampa, it's got to be rum country, right? I mean, it's tropical, it's warm, it's nice. Maybe it's Gronk firing up tequila. I didn't see any, limes anywhere. What do you think he had today? I need the full report. And I just don't.
Brady seems like a champagne guy to me.
Yes, but
like a real nice champagne.
Like they cracked that thing on the hull of the ship before they embarked, right? I mean, we're talking Caddyshack scene. He's just swinging away. Man, but that, drunk Brady is getting love. He seems human.
Yeah, he seems human. He doesn't seem like this weird robotic football monster that we saw in New England.
No, and he's got his hat on backwards, and he's got somebody to the left of him, somebody to the right of him, and they are guiding him. We have all been there, either being guided or doing the guiding. Mm-hmm. And you nailed it. I mean, it's straight up after your stop at the bar, after your stop at Duffy's, after your stop at Lazari's, brother, you're just, someone needs to take care of you. He looks like he's ready for the hot stripper at the Highway Diner.
Yes. Gotta add the cheese and the egg.
You gotta add the cheese, and you gotta get the hash browns extra crispy and get the magic toast.
Facts. No.
Brother, we lived purposefully like 2 blocks from the diner in college.
It's just, open 24 hours still.
They had their own smoker bus.
How many? But okay, back.
How
to
much
Brady.
did I spend at the Highway Diner in college? I don't know if that's where you were going.
But back to Brady. It just seems by all accounts he can go put his hair down in Tampa Bay. You see Bruce Arians.
Look at the crew he's with.
But do you see Bruce Arians' comments to the Los Angeles Times? I think last night.
Tell me.
He said
BA's had a glass of Crown in his hand, and Jason Lights had a Bud Light in his since Sunday at 1.
But apparently Tom Brady texted him a couple times this year and said, "Hey, do you mind if I don't throw on Wednesday? I want to keep my arm fresh for the game Sunday." And Bruce Arians is like, "Yeah, I don't care. You're Tom Brady. Do what you want to do."
Well, I can just see, and based on kind of the picture Lars Anderson has described to us of BA, BA's been with the who's who of quarterbacks because he connects and gets the best out of them. And his personality is a major driver in that. And you look at Arizona's resurrection when they had Warner, and of course they had some good years with Carson Palmer, right? Kind of knocking on that door. This whole crew that went from Arizona to Tampa, between Bulls, between Arians, between Light, down to Tampa with some of their free agent pickups and what they have. It's been fun. And you had Leftwich down there. It's a sweet group. Now, the key is how long can you keep this group together? You won it once. People are going to come knocking for Byron Leftwich. My wife is back from buying more furniture, so I'm glad she hung up. That would have made me shake. I would have needed the Tom Brady Long Island iced tea or something. What'd you spend today, dear? Well, we don't want to know. Just break the news to me afterwards, after 6 o'clock tonight. So pretty cool scene down in Tampa. Gronk's doing his thing, shirtless, of course, and he is either experienced in focusing on the middle if he's seeing double or triple, because he was kind of standing up, kind of on the edge of the boat with that balance. So good on Tampa and their party. They are having a good old time in the sun and on the water. What type of fun is Nebraska having in the recruiting realms for 2022? This offer came out yesterday to Conor Harrell. He's the latest quarterback offer. The other 2 quarterbacks that have been offered by Nebraska, Walker Howard, kid out of Louisiana, and the who's offered Howard. And just think of the schools that have produced or are pretty reputable with quarterbacks, right? You have Florida State with Jimbo Fisher. You're going to have Alabama down there, always offering. So Walker Howard's a 4-star quarterback with the who's who of offers. You have M.J. Morris. I think he's committed to Georgia Tech, but it was between Georgia and Georgia Tech. Nebraska was an early offer to M.J. Morris. Nebraska just offering Conor Harrell. And when you look at Harrell, I mean, it's Louisville, it's Duke, it's Nebraska, it's Tennessee. And Harrell was, I think, first offered by Tennessee and Coach Pruitt. I know that Northwestern has asked for his transcripts as well. So he's on the radar. He's a 3-star kid, 6'1", 195. And Harrell, just watching a little bit of his film, he's at Thompson High School, 73% completion percentage, over 3,500 yards passing, went to a state championship, 42 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. And from a rushing standpoint, 319, 5 a carry, 5 touchdowns. He looks to me, and you have one or the other, right, based on who you play in high school and what you do best and how do you win games. High school coaches are going to ask their quarterbacks just to go do what they do best and win that way. And a lot of times you get, let's just kind of look at McCaffrey. What was McCaffrey? McCaffrey's an athlete that was able to make plays, right, for his dad at Christian Valor as a quarterback and also as kind of an athlete wideout when his brother Dylan was the quarterback there. You look at Smothers. Smothers is a speed demon, also in a spread offense. He can throw the football. He's a tough kid. Smothers also a very gifted runner. And with Adrian, what you saw in junior film, pre-arm injury, guy could chuck the football, had a really good right arm on him and was mobile enough, right? But I look at Conor Harrell, and I look, and he's the latest offer. Again, we're talking out of Thompson High School down in Alabaster, Alabama. And I tell you what, Chins has had good luck with Bama kids if we're looking at Cam Taylor-Britt. I hope Nebraska can stay in it with this Harrell kid, and not to get too geeked on film, but he had to sit behind a kid as a sophomore that was a kid that eventually ended up going to Auburn as quarterback. And he started this year, and he's a guy that is very good. And immediately when you look at an athlete at quarterback or a dual threat guy, what is he? Is he a run first guy? Is he a thrower that can also run? And in Frost's offense, if you get a guy like a McKenzie Milton that can read defenses and get the football out to some ball players and move around and run when you need to or want to, kind of like Mariota, that works well as an additional rushing threat. But if you got a guy that can just chuck it, and what I loved about Harrell in this offense is his mobility in the pocket. He looked a little Mahomes-esque. Again, we're name dropping and attaching to a kid that's a senior to be in high school, which isn't fair. But the way he was able to escape and throw on the run is nice. I mean, that's fantastic athleticism, great touch on the football, but also enough smoke to hit some seam routes. And he really, just reading up on him a little bit, really enjoys the chess side of things with knowing and understanding defenses and where to go with the football, but also have that backyard element to just go make a play. And we talk about Nebraska football needing to get downfield, right? Well, Harrell, at least through his high school film as a junior at Thompson High School, is a dude that can get the football out and find guys deep downfield, down the sideline or down the seam. I'm really intrigued. I like what I saw. I think there's really good high school football down in Alabama. I hope Nebraska's able to stick in it with him. We'll see if Harrell's still wowed by Tennessee despite the Pruitt crew gone. Louisville, Duke, and Nebraska, and then there's a bunch of a group of 5 led by Central Florida. But Harrell's a dude that I hope Nebraska sticks on, and I think he could do some nice things at Nebraska. He's a quarterback I'd really like to see in Lincoln at some point.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to judge a quarterback based solely off his highlights, because that's what they are. They're your highlights of the season, the best plays he got. But, I mean, this guy's got like a 12-minute long junior year highlight tape. You're seeing a lot of his plays, a lot of what he was doing for his offense. And what impressed me most was his ability to stand tall in the pocket and be confident in the pocket. This isn't a running quarterback that as soon as his first option was gone, he'd be looking to run the ball and make a play with his legs. This is a guy that will stand in and get...
He wants to throw.
Yeah, he'll get through his first read, his second read, and then once the pocket starts breaking down, then he uses his legs as a check down almost. I like what I'm seeing from him. He's got good arm strength, and despite being, I don't want to say reluctant to run, it's definitely his second option to run. He definitely is quick, shifty, and tends to pick up that first down whenever the play does break down. He does get outside the pocket and get downfield with his legs. We'll
spend some time with Mike Babcock, get his thoughts on the Husker staff additions. We'll talk to Babbers about what are we going to learn about Husker baseball when Babbers break out that crystal ball. Schedule-wise, some Husker hoops as well. Tom Brady just letting us know as we started the show off about drunk Tom Brady. Nothing to see here, says Tom Brady on Twitter. Just a little avocado tequila.
Avocado tequila?
Well, he eats avocado ice cream.
That's wrong.
Well, avocados are incredible, and I'm sure it's anti-inflammatory. Avocado tequila for the win. Mike Babcock's on the way. It's a Wednesday with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We welcome in with Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com, historian, author, Hall of Famer Mike Babcock. Babbers, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Just plugging away like everybody else, I guess.
That's the way to be, isn't it?
It is. It is. You got to just, I like to believe that we're all in this together, but it really bothers me that a lot of people are not able to work, and got to get this thing under control so people can earn a living.
No, I absolutely hear you. Babbers, a thought here. Let's start off with some of the staff additions and kind of your takeaway with Bill Busch back in Lincoln.
You know, that's the one that I'm familiar with, of course. I'm really happy that he's coming back. I know that under Bill Callahan, one of his responsibilities was coordinating special teams. That's a good thing. Another aspect of him coming back that can make people happy is his ability as a recruiter. I mean, I think he was influential in getting Burrow to LSU, and when he worked under Urban Meyer at Utah, and might have had some influence there in recruiting Alex Smith, the quarterback there. So recruiting is really important, and he's shown that he can do that, I think. And then the special teams, there's been that conversation, and to have him on board in any capacity is a good thing.
Mike Babcock's with us, Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com, at MDBabs on Twitter. Babbers, when we talk about quarterback play, we were just spending a few minutes on some of the offers for 2022. And if you look at Nebraska, I want to kind of get your take with what you've seen in your time with just making a decision, maybe not to shift away from a great athlete at quarterback, but you've seen different times with Nebraska football where they've gone different routes. With Coach Osborne, you had kind of a pass-first pro-style guy for the first part of his career, and then you saw the importance to get that quarterback that'll get you over the Oklahoma hump in Turner Gill. And then towards the end of Coach Osborne's career, you had a slew of incredible option quarterbacks to go with the power run game. We've seen different styles of quarterbacks between Osborne and to where we're at right now. But some of the kids they're looking at right now, they are really fleet of foot, but maybe they're a little bit more polished, at least as we look on an air quote highlight film tape where they could be throwers first versus runners first.
Well, and that's the thing, that if that's what Scott Frost wants, if that's what he's looking for, then it's a good thing. And that, the guys that you mentioned, the one guy is from Lafayette, Louisiana, and one guy is from Alabama. And, with the pandemic, it's really difficult to get those guys on campus. And, you don't see what it is that makes Nebraska special. I think the passion of the fans in a sold-out Memorial Stadium. So it's going to be more difficult. But if that's where he wants to go, that's the thing. You have to have an idea of what you want, what your system is supposed to be, and then you recruit for that. And that's the one thing that Osborne did. When he took over for Bob Devaney, and Tom was the wide receivers coach and also effectively the offensive coordinator since about 1968 when Bob decided that they needed to change the offense to more of a spread type thing. And so you had Dave Hum, you got Vince Ferragamo, a transfer from the University of California, and then you pointed it out. Tom saw that the one game that everybody focused on, because Tom's teams always won at least 9 games and got to a bowl game, but early on what they couldn't do was beat Oklahoma. And what Tom decided was the way to beat Oklahoma was to play the way Oklahoma did, with a quarterback that was capable of running the ball as well as throwing it, maybe more so running the ball eventually, and installing an option offense. So he recruited that way. He recruited Nate Mason. He recruited Turner Gill. Turner could have been a quarterback in either. He could have been a drop-back quarterback and been really successful. He could have been more of an option quarterback even than he was, and he could have been successful. But he was kind of the transitional figure there. You saw Steve Taylor was important in that transition. Jerry Godowski had a remarkable season, the one season that he was a starter, working the way all the way up, to Tommy Fraser, and then Scott Frost was that kind of quarterback as well. But it started with the commitment to a system, and then look for guys that fit that system. That was the important thing. And I think that Nebraska kind of got away from that approach when Bill Callahan was the coach here, because Bill seemed to, his recruiting seemed to be, let's just get the best guys, the highest ranked guys, and then figure out how to use them. And, he had some really talented guys that he brought in, but it didn't seem like he had a consistent idea of what the system was supposed to be. And that's where it is. That's where it's at from my point of view. And so you talk about those quarterbacks. If that's the system that Scott Frost wants, then, let's move ahead and let's find other pieces at other positions that fit that kind of system. And once you commit to that, I think you're in a place where you can make improvement. And part of it is recruiting, and part of it is just teaching and getting the right guys to fit a system, commitment to it.
Mike Babcock's with us from Hail Varsity at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, a thought from you on tonight's matchup against Wisconsin. Coach Hoiberg frustrated after the tough one against Minnesota. I think he's a smart basketball guy. I think he's super frustrated at lack of execution, and I think he's just frustrated with their inability to prep now that they're slamming 3 to 4 games in a week. How does this go tonight for Nebraska? Another good effort or another drilling? I mean, is there a happy medium tonight with Whiskey coming in?
I'd like to say that there's a happy medium at least. And it's ironic, or I don't know if it's ironic, it's interesting that, some of the things that bothered the football team, just making mechanical mistakes, jumping off sides or, the motion or whatever, problems plague the football team. The basketball team, to me, seems to be the same way. The that the players get out of system here, and the next thing you know, it's like a one-man show. Like one guy has the ball and he decides what it is he's going to do with it, and you don't pass the ball around. You don't stay in any kind of a system, and you don't take advantage of the skills of all the players that you have there. And I always ascribe that, in part at least, to transfers. Accomplishing this kind of team unity thing when you've got a bunch of transfer players that are new to the system, and they're trying to find their way. And there's the mindset. There's kind of this me mindset that you can't have. When the Huskers pass the ball around and don't turn it over, my gosh, Nebraska turnovers just hurt the Huskers something fierce. But don't turn the ball over. Take care of the basketball and pass the ball. Run a system of some sort. I think they have the talent to be competitive in these situations, but I don't see it. You see glimpses of it, and then all of a sudden something goes. There's a couple of turnovers, and then the next thing you know, it becomes a one-man offense again. And whoever has the ball, that they determine what's going to happen.
Mike Babcock's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Mike, at this point, it seems like Nebraska basketball is pretty destined to finish in the basement of the Big Ten. But the question to me is are they even going to win a conference game this year? It feels like it's been so long since last time that Nebraska did win a conference game. Is that going to change this year? We're going to have to wait till 2021, 2022.
That was one of the questions on the mailbag on the website today. Is Nebraska going to win a conference game? And my response was yes. I don't know which one. I just think that at some point Nebraska has talent, and when it kind of fits together, and Nebraska is not turning the ball over consistently and plays as hard as there have been stretches where Nebraska's looked pretty good, and you got to in most games there have been stretches, but they don't last, and. So, yeah, I think Nebraska's going to win a game or two, but I couldn't tell you which ones, and there's some pretty tough competition coming up here, so it's going to be a challenge. But I just think that Fred Hoiberg will get their attention, and, the longer it goes, Teddy Allen not playing for disciplinary reasons, I mean, that sends a message. I think they'll get it together at some point, but you're right. This is probably a cellar dweller for this season.
Babbers, about 90 seconds or a little less than. Any crystal ball with baseball for us, for Husker baseball?
No. I don't understand why we don't have a baseball schedule yet. It's going to be conference only. I see the softball schedule was released, and that's a good thing. Is that there's going to be a series of games that are going to be played in Florida before they start playing at sites. I like that. I assume that baseball would have something of the similar nature. The one thing that's concerning is I saw the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association preseason rankings. One team from the Big Ten in the top 35, I think Michigan was 34, and only two other teams got votes. And that's going to be tough when you've got a conference-only schedule and you're trying to qualify for the NCAA tournament. You're going to have to play really well and impress people if you're starting out a season where the rankings don't give you any kind of credit whatsoever.
No, there's no non-con, there's no RPI boosters, there's no Oregon State or Arizona State. It's what do you do in conference, and what do they weigh your conference value at when you look across baseball. Babbers, we'll do this again. You stay healthy and warm, partner, all right?
You and your listeners be safe.
All right, Mike. Thanks so much. Mike Babcock with us, all things Nebraska, and catch him on Twitter at MDBabs. Read him, HailVarsity.com, and, of course, magazine. Mike Schuart on the way. Shuey's checking in with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
5 minutes away, Andy Markowski to talk some Husker hoops. The Pride of Ord going to be with us. George Darlington will get us some recruiting thoughts and some Bill Busch backstory. We say hi to Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf, and someday that snow is going to be away. There'll be a swim-up pool. You know about the amazing golf at Wilderness. Join now. Shuey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Looking at a lot of white stuff out there. Not happy about it.
Well, we can blame someone else for that. That's
right.
That's so. I got to ask you, and I lost it with not only the commentary, but just the pinpoint accuracy of DJ over in Dubai, and he hit the he hit the patron, and the commentary that followed was just priceless on Twitter. So on top of the video itself, Shuey, did you ever have a DJ moment where, you know, as Happy Gilmore would say, well, they shouldn't have been standing there?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I played my first U.S. Open when I was in college.
That's awesome.
And I got on the first tee, and I looked down the first tee, and there had to be 30,000 people on the first fairway. And, you know, each one's poking their head in a little more to kind of see. All of a sudden, it looked like I was trying to hit it down a telescope. So I looked at my caddy, and I'm like going, I'm not sure I can even hit this thing. So I finally pulled the trigger and hit it, and I was blacked out anyway. I didn't have any idea what was happening. I looked at my caddy. I said, "Where'd that go?" He said, "See all those people over there to the left diving for cover? That's where you hit a big old hook off the tee."
Diving for cover. I'm laughing with you, Shuey. Don't hurt me next time I see you.
Have there ever been any patrons that you didn't hit with the golf ball, but they deserve to be hit with the golf ball?
Oh, yeah, there are many of those.
Well, where's it been the most rowdy / difficult, where the patrons didn't let you get to your little Zen moment and swing away?
Actually, they used to play it was called the Greater Greensboro out in North Carolina. And I think it was the 15th hole. It was a par 3. And they put a grandstand up behind the green. And it was, man, it had to be, I don't know, it had to be 5 layers high. And they would just, each one, the higher it got, the more they'd hang out over the grandstands. And they're right on top of the green, man. They were drinking beer, and they were spilling beer. And it was rowdy as heck, man. They don't have it anymore. They had to do away with it because it got so crazy. People were throwing beer, spilling beer, throwing it down on the green. It was nuts. So
could you ask one of the folks there to toss you one if you were thirsty?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good. Mike Schuhart's with us, Wilderness Ridge. We're talking a little PGA, Hail Varsity Radio. So let's go to Phoenix. And what wowed you most about Koepka this weekend?
Just the best part was listening to him after, when he was talking about, you know, his injury and coming back from his injury and the doubt. But it's like, you know, he went through that spell where he was doubting whether he'd ever be back to the level that he was, you know, and his ability to kind of keep sticking through it and grinding through it, you know, and getting into that moment where he started getting his confidence back, and, you know, turned out that he won the tournament because of that. That's one. And Jordan Spieth, obviously. Jordan Spieth he's really good for the game. He's one that needs to get his game back, so he's up there. I mean, the buzz that he creates when he's playing well and in contention is kind of tigerish.
Mm. He was, I know he didn't have, it was a roundabout scenic tour, but he was phenomenal on Saturday. The shots he hit, the recovery he had.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just wow. That was a wow factor, man.
Yeah, that was Jordan Spieth of a few years ago when he was really on top, you know, of the PGA Tour. I mean, that's how he played back then, and he hadn't been able to do that for a long time, and it's finally had a little bit of a glimpse of him getting back to that. So, and it created a huge buzz. I mean, and he like I said, he is really good for the game. I mean, he's very likable. People like him. They root for him. You know, so when he plays well and does what he does, and he has that flair about him, that tigerish flair. I mean, he goes about doing some amazing things, and people walk away going, "Wow, that was incredible! Did you see that?" So, like, we need more of Jordan doing that.
AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am this weekend, and Pebble Beach legendary. Who do you like, and do you have a moment from Pebble Beach?
Actually, that's a bucket list place. If you're a golfer and you love golf, that is one place that you need to go. I mean, it's still get goosebumps thinking about that, because you go down, you walk down to the putting green, little putting green. These shops are around the putting green, and you think about all the great players that have putted on that putting green before they went to the first tee to play golf. And I mean, it's pretty legendary. It's a pretty cool place. And I did shoot 69 at Pebble Beach in my first tour event there, which is
nice.
Pretty fun. That was really nice.
I'd say, Shuey, you can lead with that. I mean, I know the putting green scene is sweet, but you can just casually throw out the, well, you know, fired a 69 at Pebble Beach one time.
Oh, by the way, right?
Oh, by the way. Yeah. I had a buddy, my friend Iowa Russ, and his dad, they went and did Pebble Beach and just loved it.
Loved it, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, man. That's
incredible.
He's who I golf with, and he tolerates me. And, yeah, he went with his dad, and that was sweet. Should we got a couple of minutes, kind of lay out what folks can check out at Wilderness? I know it's snow in February, but, man, a lot of work going in. And I tell you what, there's a lot of folks that are thinking about what do we do for that family time, what do we do for golf membership?
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, they're still working away even with this bad weather. So our new pro shop and academy is going up. Yeah, if you ever stop out, take a look, you can see it's a big, huge building they're working on every day. And then once this weather finally breaks, they'll start working on the pool. And, yeah, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, I'm super excited. Everybody's super excited and can't wait. And we need to see some green grass.
You're telling me, man, this stuff's no good. So are you on, you got about 30 seconds here, are you dialing in on Paul Casey for Pebble? Do you like Molinari? Jason Day, where's Shuey getting the crystal ball ready?
No, I'm going for these young guys, man. They're starting to show up. They're starting to play really good. So it's like you got Abraham Answer and Joaquin Neiman. There's a young guy, Will Gordon is another one, you know, and Pebble typically is, if you're a California guy, grew up out there, they usually are pretty tough there. I mean, they always seem to play really well, local guys around the area. So, I mean, there's a lot of really young, good talent that's really starting to come. Scotty Scheffler is another one.
Yep.
I mean, he's right on the verge of having just a breakout to become, you know, a top 10 player in the world. So, watch for one of those guys.
Mike Schuart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Go see Shuey. Go get fit and fixed by Shuey. And check out Wilderness. Shuey, we love you, buddy. We'll get caught up next week. How's that sound?
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. There he is, Mike Schuart with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Andy Markowski, the pride of Ord. Some Husker Hoops thoughts. George Darlington next hour.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Wednesday edition, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We'll check in with Andy Markowski and George Darlington. Reminder about West Blue Realty. Are you looking for that residential home in Lincoln or surrounding community? West Blue Realty can make this 2021 move painless for you. For a limited time, you mentioned Hail Varsity, and West Blue Realty will provide you up to $1,000 on the closing of your next home purchase. How do you do it? Well, you do it with Tom Luby and Kelly Hofschneider. Give Tom a ring at 402-540-3768. Kelly Hofschneider, Kelly's there at 402-202-2312. For more details, it pays to work with West Blue. WestBlueRealty.com, 1120 K Street, Suite 200. So I know, Elijah, you are anxious to get back at it with another steak and beer bet Friday. We will figure that all out. But the odds to win the Super Bowl are out in Vegas for next season. After 10,000 simulations, The odds are as follows for Super Bowl 56. The Chiefs at 14.87%. Green Bay is in at second at 11.76. Buffalo is at 10. And Baltimore at 10.98. Tampa comes in at number 5 at 9.29. So I don't know what's greater right now, Brady's blood alcohol level or this percentage for Tampa to go back-to-back.
I was looking at the odds last night, and Tampa going back-to-back I think is a great pick. I think it could happen.
You know what I think may happen? They get back there and Kansas City drills them.
Like a Super Bowl rematch? That's
Super Bowl revenge.
Having the same two teams in the Super Bowl back-to-back is even more difficult than going any team going back-to-back at the exact same team.
Let's just go astronomical here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we haven't seen Clemson or Bama.
College football's so different. You know that.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Or Lakers and Celtics. I mean, hell, that doesn't happen ever.
But I was checking out the odds, though, and if you're a bettor, currently the Jets are plus 10,000 to win the Super Bowl next year. And I don't think, there's no part of me that thinks the Jets are actually in contention to win the Super Bowl next year, but at plus 10,000.
I like Coach Saleh. I think he's money.
I don't think the Jets are going to be basement dwellers next year. I could see Jets being in contention for a wild card next year, to be 100% honest with you.
Is this pre-Watt, Deshaun? I mean, if he goes there, you have him. I think Richard Sherman may find his way there. I don't know. Who's he throwing to?
You got Denzel Mims. He was a rookie last year.
Right.
He's doing all right. And I assume they'll go target another wide receiver somewhere in second, third round of the draft. But
to me, if I'm going anyone besides Kansas City, I think I got to go Buffalo.
Buffalo's good. What about Green Bay?
I think they got to do it. I mean, they're too good. Aaron Rodgers is too good to not get a second Super Bowl. And I know they whacked their defensive coordinator. They were better defensively. They got torched. They got kind of a couple of goofballs in the secondary that didn't do their job when it comes to coverage, clearly.
I mean, I think that the Packers are a team that's too good to have made it to now 2 straight NFC Championship games, lost them both. I mean, they got a good roster turning next year. They still got Aaron Rodgers.
Let's just be straight. They should probably have like 2 or 3 rings under Rodgers.
For sure. And
right?
I can see them going all in next year, trying to get Rodgers that last ring before they hand over the reins to Jordan Love, if that's who they turn it over to.
Different discussion. We'll check in with Andy Markowski, Pride of Ord, Husker Hoops on the way. Hail Varsity continues.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Hour 2 at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. It's nice of Bruce Arians to perform an intervention on any free agent offers Levante David may get. I'll have to play that for you towards the end of the show. Pretty good stuff. We welcome in. He is the Pride of Ord, stand out with Nebraska, and part of the Pius X girls basketball coaching staff, and Pius unbeaten, #1, phenomenal. We welcome in Andy Markowski with us at Markowski_Andy on Twitter. Mr. Andy, how the heck are you, man? What's new?
Not doing well, Smitty. I just, haven't been on. I just assumed the coldest week of the year, misery, and let's call Markowski. Let's get him on. I don't know if my name came to the top of your mind with this cold weather or what, but I appreciate the invite.
Brother, it's so fun to chat with you. And listen, we just haven't really gotten into it. There's been so much NFL and there's been so much football that we're kind of shifting towards basketball. And can you prescribe? I mean, Nebraska basketball fans are on a couch right now. and they need some answers. They need some help. Do you have any love for Nebraska basketball? Big time against Wisconsin tonight, but that's where I want to go. And no, it wasn't the coldest week of the year. Let's just dust off Andy and see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And you're going to thaw it out, is what I'm saying. And tell me about what you've observed from Nebraska. I mean, just what are your feelings from this tough season?
It certainly is a challenging year, and I'm not here to make a bunch of excuses because they just haven't been able to, really in 2 years and put it together. And I think part of that is COVID, right? When you're going to flip a roster in 2020 and then flip it again in 2020 and 21. You need time. The players need time in the system. They didn't have that in the summer or the fall, and they certainly have had disruptions this year. I think the talent is better. I think Fred has proved that they will go out and attract a more talented player. Now that doesn't always lead to success. I think they have to figure out the right fit, the right chemistry. Get the group playing together more than what maybe he's been able to do with this group. But there's more talent, coming in again next year. I like the fact that they do have some high school kids, linked into that recruiting class. But the reality of it is the Big Ten is a monster. I mean, it is really good. It wouldn't surprise me if there wasn't 3 or 4 teams in the Elite Eight from this conference. And when you're playing that night in and night out, with a team that's not playing well or have good chemistry on the court, you're going to lose games, and that's what they've experienced so far this season.
What was the key to some of your chemistry with those teams you were on with Lou and some of the higher level Husker teams that were tournament bound? I mean, and you were a captain on those squads. What, not only from a peer standpoint, but from a talent standpoint, how were you able to get that chemistry to be a part of that talent that was on the floor?
Yeah, well, it starts with talent. I mean, you said it a couple of times. I mean, we had some guys that could really play, professionals, and I do think they have enough talent to be successul. Now, the second part of what we had in the 90s and what Danny did a nice job on is he had role players. He had role definition. He blended tough role players with talent. He had depth. And those things, I think Fred has really struggled when you're out recruiting and transfers are all coming looking for more opportunity, right? People don't leave because they're really happy with their role or the system that they left. They're looking for a better situation, and through the recruiting process, they're probably being led like, hey, we play a fast system. You're going to have an opportunity to put the ball in your hands and make plays, and pretty soon you tell that to 4 or 5 kids that they can have a chance to have the ball in their hand and make plays. Now you're trying to balance that out through the course of a season, and I think the role definition and blending a unit together. Who wants to do some of the small things? Who's willing to not play if you need to play big or if you need to play small? Who's willing to give up those minutes for the betterment of the team? I've not seen this group, kind of buy into all of that, and that takes time. It takes chemistry, and I think once again the time away that the guys can't spend a lot of time off the court to bond and really care about each other with some of the COVID restrictions. And, everybody is experiencing that around the country. But when you're mixing in Walker, 14 games into the season, those are things that are challenging to do. And I don't think Fred's been able to blend the group as well as probably what he needs to or what he wanted to.
How big is tonight for Teddy Allen?
Yeah, Teddy was on the bench cheering, which is a really positive sign. But time will tell the story there. I mean, Teddy is immensely talented. I think guys like Teddy are hard to play with in terms of every time they get the ball, they think they can score, which he can. But so can some other players on the team. So it's trying to find a role that he's comfortable with without having to take the volume of shots and mixing it in with some other talented scorers on the roster. But hopefully Teddy figures it out. He seems to be doing, for the most part, things the right way. But I think Fred's going to move on from people that he can't get to buy into the ultimate goal, and that's to get to the tournament and win a tournament game. We can't forget that, and sometimes you can have too much talent or too many scorers, and you have to process that. But hopefully Teddy figures out, because there's been games he's been the best player on the court, and certainly Nebraska needs him to do that.
Yeah, you're right. There's been games where he's been all over the court and seems like the best player on the team. There's other games where he's gone completely silent. I don't think that's what Husker fans were expecting coming into the season from Teddy Allen. And there's been times where the Husker offense just in stretches of the game has gone completely silent. It feels like they turn the ball over once and twice, and then there's just a lid right over the top of the rim, and they can't get the ball through it. They can't get any offense, and you look up and you're down 20 points. What do you think the remedy for that is? Because that seems like a problem from last year that's extended into this year as well.
Yeah, just to unpack that, the turnovers is probably the most alarming thing to me. I mean, Fred can really coach offense, and it doesn't appear that we are as far along offensively as maybe what I expected them to be. You've had two different point guards, right? I thought Cam Mack probably did a better job of running Fred's stuff last year in terms of being downhill and kind of being a pass-first point guard. I think Cam had numerous triple-doubles, and I think he set the assist record, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he was probably a better fit at point guard. The amount of turnovers we have this year, tells me that they're just not settled at some of those guard spots. I think Banton is a really talented, gifted athlete, but I don't know if he is exactly the point guard that Fred needs in the system. I think he's a complement, could play a combo a little bit if we did have a true point guard. So, the turnovers and just the execution is the thing that has alarmed me. The shooting comes and goes. I think we're not a great shooting team yet. So when you're forced to take a bunch of jump shots being down against good defensive Big Ten teams, that was going to show up at some point, but they've got defensively, I've been really impressed. I think Doc's done a really good job. I think they've fought in, they've defended. I feel like this team is competing. They haven't waved the flag. So there's a lot of positives, but at some point they got to win. I mean, we're not here just to feel good about them being better in year two, and I think Fred and the staff would acknowledge that as well. But I look at their schedule, and I'm glad I'm not coaching in the Big Ten. I'll put it that way, because you have a Wisconsin team that's coming off their worst loss, of the season. So welcome to that. And then you get an Illinois team that I think on paper might be the most talented team there is in the country, with two really, really good guards and maybe the most dominant big. So it doesn't get any easier for Nebraska.
Andy Markowski's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, standout Husker, assistant at Pius, and the pride of Ord. So this discussion point of getting high school talent to come in and the world that we live in with transfer opportunity, be it JUCO or be it a Division I transfer like we've seen in past years, be it a Palmer or a Cope, or you look at Pettaway and Walt, right? I mean, those are some of the big-name guys that left programs that did well in Lincoln. There's been more JUCO accessibility, and then you factored in, of course, McGowan's coming in from Pitt and Banton. I mean, so there's a mesh. Tell me about your feelings with Nebraska and the high school talent that's so loaded right now for 2021. I mean, Nebraska's in on some of these kids, but a lot of the other kids are going to go elsewhere. McGowan's is out there as a 5-star. You got the Millard North crew. You've got Trout out in Grand Island that's big time. And then you got Chucky that's headed to Wisconsin. I mean, what type of brand / pitch reception would Nebraska basketball get right now from high school kids? I mean, how hard to sell is it?
I think nationally the brand is there with Fred. I mean, you get McCowan, which is the best recruit, maybe, since Woolridge or some of the guys that are ranked in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. And then you get another top 100 big out of California. Certainly the Hunter Salas, not choosing Nebraska, is kind of a black eye. But in the end, Chris, wherever you get the talent, and I think more high school kids are committed to the long term of the program that they choose because they've vetted it and they want to be at Nebraska. You have to get people that want Nebraska to win. They have to be about Nebraska basketball versus, hey, I'm unhappy, I'm going to leave, I want to go score 20 points at this school because they don't have a guard at my position. And sometimes you get that with transfers. So, going back to your point, we need a backbone of kids that want to be at Nebraska and want to win, regardless if they're in-state kids or, out-of-state high school kids. I do think you have to blend that. Now, Isaac Trout, Jason Green, 22, as you mentioned both of those, they would be phenomenal gets for Fred. They're kids that have been recruited, on the national level, right? Not just offers from, Iowa State or Creighton or Kansas State. I mean, these are kids that are getting recruited at the national level. And those are the kids that really can help you if they want to be at Nebraska and want to compete and help turn the Nebraska program around. But, Chucky, I think Chucky is immensely talented, probably as the 21 class is the best player in Nebraska. I think he gets more done than Hunter. But the reality of it, Wisconsin is a great spot for him. They play gap-style defense. They're slower on offense. Chucky guards and drives it with strength versus speed. Fred wants to play faster. So, I wasn't surprised by that choice, and give Chucky credit that he chose a school that was, probably a really, really good fit for him. And I don't know if people understood some of those details around that decision, but Chucky would certainly help Nebraska, and you would like to have him. But signing the two top 100 kids that we did in the 21 class is a big step for Fred, and now he's got to follow it up with the 22 class with having Jason Green and a guy like Isaac Trout, another. Probably a top 40 kid when it's all said and done. Those are kids in your back door. They don't come along every year. You need to do the best you can to keeping them home.
Andy Markowski's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Andy, while we're talking high school basketball in Nebraska, saw today that Lincoln Supreme has teamed up with the Factory Basketball Training Facility up in Omaha, and they're creating, it looks like an AAU team to join the Under Armour Basketball League. Seems like a group of Under Armour-sponsored basketball teams across America competing at the AAU level. What does that mean for high school basketball in the city of Lincoln and the state of Nebraska?
Yeah, it's just another real positive step in allowing our athletes to compete and practice in the state against other kids that are like-minded, right? So that's the first thing, is you get better in a practice environment. But the second thing is the exposure, that comes with being a part of. Now, if you're good enough, you're going to get noticed. I mean, that's the reality of people ask me all the time, how do you get recruited? Well, you get recruited by being good, because there's 4 coaches that they're paid to go out and find the talent around the country. But anytime you can, be a part of an organization that coaches will visit and watch games. Hopefully can get more kids on the radar, whether it be in the region, Division I, or national Division I kids. So, it's a credit to Matt Comero. Matt's, really put a lot of time into Supreme here locally. Got a great new facility in the Kinetic Complex on O Street. And then Mike Mackey in Omaha has done a lot of grassroots effort. I think both of those guys, don't do it for the money. They're truly want to develop boys and girls. The Lasers organization that I'm a part of joined up with Supreme this past winter. So you're seeing more of that alignment, which only strengthens the product of Nebraska basketball, both boys and girls. And I'm really excited that Mike and Matt came together and make that happen, because sometimes egos get involved, or you want all the credit, and in the end it needs to be about the boys and girls that we're all trying to develop and hopefully get an opportunity to go get a scholarship. And I think that alignment is going to help more kids achieve their goals.
Andy Markowski with us, the pride of Ord. Andy, we'll do this again soon, I promise, and we'll find our way to that brewery, all right?
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate you. Andy Markowski with us. Good to talk with him. Great insight on hoops. George Darlington's next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Tail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's spend some time with the Hall of Fame coach with Nebraska. We welcome in George Darlington. Coach, it's been a while. How's 2021 treating you?
Well, a lot like everybody. The COVID and being stuck inside the whole bit.
Well,
but hopefully it's going to get better.
Yeah, and you're staying warm. I trust. You're keeping bundled up.
Yes, I look like an Eskimo.
Well, stay bundled, man. So I wanted to give you a call and spend some time on a coach you know well that's now back in Lincoln as an analyst, and that's Bill Busch. Kind of take us through your history with Coach Busch, and what's your reaction to him back in Lincoln?
Well, I'm excited that he's going to come back, and I think he can add a lot. I know it's kind of a tough position because you have the in-place coaches, and sometimes there's a little animosity towards, quote, an analyst. But he will give a lot of great advice. He's been a lot of places and been very successful. He did a great job with us. Tremendous coach, because people don't realize that the way we operated, we only had 2 GEAs, and he really was a full-time coach, because the secondary, you need 2 guys really to watch sides and stuff like that. So he was technically, officially a grad assistant, but he was every much a full-time coach as anybody. A tremendous recruiter. The press doesn't realize that the comeback player of the year in the NFL, the quarterback from Washington, he recruited to Utah. In fact, we were at the high school in the spring. After he had recruited him, we were looking at a kind of an average running back, Reggie Bush, who was a year behind Alex Smith.
Alex Smith was so good for Utah, and that was one of Bill's early gigs, if we go back, and that was kind of there with Urban Meyer, and I know he reunited with Urban at Ohio State as an analyst, but he was in on Reggie Bush too, it sounds like. And Coach, you had work with him. So is it safe to say he was your GA or that side of the ball, because you were in the secondary when he was down there?
Yeah, that would be how his classification was, but he was just another one of the 2 defensive back coaches. He was coaching as much as I would. We split assignments with our 4-station practices some, and no, he was every bit a full-time coach, but the only thing was he was getting graduate assistant pay. And a lot of times teams do it differently, and we had other guys, Dave Schramm, the same way. I mean, and I think it helped them when they went on to another job, because they really weren't people to be running and getting coffee and donuts for people. He was actually working and coaching the DBs just like I was.
When it comes to the recruiting side of things, and George Darlington's with us on Hail Varsity Radio, we're talking Bill Busch back in Lincoln. Bill's known for his work in the secondary, not only at Nebraska, but also at LSU, was the secondary coach when they won their national championship. But he's well known as a recruiter. And what tricks of the trade has he been able to accumulate over the years? And I know his recruiting will be limited just because of his title in Lincoln now, but it seems like Coach Busch knows a lot of people in a lot of spots that are really close to talent. I mean, that's also been a very high level reputation he's developed over the years. And how has he kind of honed his recruiting skills over the decades?
Well, he's a very personable person, and then by getting to know people, even now, he could get on the phone and call coaches or the recruiting office could come to him and say, look, we're trying to recruit Joe Schmo from Kokomo. Do you know the coach? And he very well might know the coach better than any present coaches on our staff. And there would be nothing illegal, I don't think, for him to get on the phone and call, get the lowdown. You know, a lot of the JCs in Kansas, all of those, I know he had a lot of contacts, and also people all over the country. And so he can be invaluable in that regard, besides working with the defense and giving opinions that may or may not be accepted. But no, he's done a good job. The number of people that he's been the lead recruiter on, I guess you'd say, is quite amazing.
Coach George Darlington's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, when you look at a guy like Bill Busch, was he a guy that you were expecting to eventually make a return back to Lincoln like he's doing now?
Well, I'll give you a story. Scott Frost got hired. I was at church, and somebody said, hey, they're having a press conference. They just hired Scott Frost. I drove down after church, was late getting there for the beginning ceremonies, and there were a whole bunch of ex-coaches, ex-players there, and he wasn't there. He was upstairs being interviewed and from the third floor of the stadium, and I said, well, you know, I'd like to chat with him, and so they said, well, you know, he's going to be coming down this particular elevator. And so when he came down, of course, I congratulated him, and we had some nice chats in a short period of time. And I said, you know, I came down here. I wanted to recommend that you consider hiring Bill Busch. And Scott told me, yeah, I'm aware of him. And you know, we had a nice conversation. That was the first press conference they had for Scott. And, of course, we're all pulling for Scott and the staff and the team. And one of the things I'm hopeful is there's been development with the walk-ons, that there'll be a few players from that venue, let's say, coming out of the woodwork to help the team get considerably better.
George Darlington's with us on Hail Varsity Radio. So Busch is a guy that's been on Frost's radar, fair to say, for a while. Bill Busch known, obviously, because of his time here as a GA. Coach Darlington with you.
Player,
yeah.
When Bill was here.
Okay, I got you. So
he was a quarterback.
Yeah. So that was 97 when Bill was with you guys, correct?
Yeah, he was with us. So, and of course Scott was with us more than 97.
Sure. Yeah.
He transferred in from a minor school on the West Coast.
George Darlington's with us. That's right. Those darn tech universities, right?
Well, I went there, so that's why I can kid.
No, I know you did. George Darlington's with us. Coach, with special teams, right? I mean, before we let you go, that's another, I guess, area of expertise for Bill Busch too, correct?
Yes, very much so. Very, very much so.
What's been so good for Busch in his career? What have you seen from him, from coach to coach, about his ability to make special teams kind of hum?
Well, he's like anything when you're coaching a position or a segment, how well you research it, how well you, let's say, experiment and try things to see if they will improve. He was a part of that, and that's going to be really important. I know I'm an old Saul concerning the three elements of football, but we have badly lost many segments of the kicking game the last 3 years. I mean, everybody knows that if they pay any attention, and that's cost us. Not allowed Scott to have a winning record, even up to this point, and that has to be radically improved. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't, we're going to be disappointed.
George Darlington's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, a longtime assistant at Nebraska, and his GA, Bill Busch from back in the 90s with Coach Osborne. Bill's been a lot of spots, and man, he's got the Wall of Fame with some of those recruiting wins. You just mentioned he was in on Reggie Bush. He was there for Alex Smith, and just recently, I mean, can you imagine LSU without Joe Burrow?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, they would have won 9 or 10, but they wouldn't have won at all.
Yeah.
And Bill, during Callahan's years, if you look at the people that he was predominantly in charge of in the recruiting during that time, a lot of those players were kids that he was the lead recruiter on. And again, his contacts, you make contacts the longer you're in the business, and he took good advantage of it, and he's very well liked, very personable, and he knows what a football player is, and he can be in a good way very critical as to what we're playing with now compared to what they played with 2 years ago at LSU. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is that's where you have to get. And the way you get there is development through the walk-on program, recruiting as well as you can, having a good weight program and all that. But nobody is sitting around here and thinking that we have better players at this point than Alabama does. But there were periods where we did have as good or better players than Alabama has. And they didn't come the traditional way. They came from what would be categorized 3-star athletes plus a great walk-on program where a certain number of men developed, and the whole program. That's what we have to do here. There's no secret. We're not going to out-recruit Alabama at this point or LSU or their in-state area players, but that doesn't mean you can't put yourself in a position to beat them, and by getting there another way.
George Darlington. Coach, we'll go get some Mexican soon, and look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, promises, right?
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. It's time for a Jock Doc Wednesday, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Dr. Ben Woodhead with us. Dr. Ben, how you been?
Doing great, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I am good. Did you have a good time at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was good. Other than everything going on outside and trying to stay warm, the Super Bowl was great.
It was. It wasn't great for Patrick Mahomes. That man was running for his life, and today he went under the knife. Patrick Mahomes having surgery on that right foot, a torn plantar plate, and we knew he wasn't 100%, Dr. Ben, but that's pretty quick turnaround time. I mean, there's different levels of turf toe, and then there's that turf toe that requires surgery by the one of the best in Dr. Robert Anderson. What's your takeaway with this?
Well, it obviously is bad enough that it had to undergo surgery. Usually these are injuries that don't always. From reading it, it sounds like he did rupture that plantar plate. It's quite extensive surgery. It'll get quite extensive rehab. It's something that he's probably been, it's hard to tell when he actually injured it, but he's been dealing with it for a while.
Dr. Ben Woodhead's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio at Jock Doc Wednesday, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Yeah, we'll get into the rehab of it, but in your expertise, kind of take us through the bad to worse with turf toe, if you don't mind, because clearly Mahomes was not off of his feet. He was using them Sunday, but even throughout the playoffs and even towards the end of the regular season, they just, I don't know, Kansas City was still scoring and winning, but they didn't look as sharp. We don't know when this started. We just know that it has affected him from a mobility standpoint. He still played great. He just didn't have much help.
Yeah, I mean, his line didn't help him out a lot, but he was running for his life. But, yeah, I do think he looked a little slower in his step, at least in the Super Bowl and maybe in the last couple games. Whether he was just beat up from the end of the year, it's hard to say. But it certainly could have been lingering for a while. And there's all varieties of turf toe. If you've talked to anybody that ever has had turf toe, it can be a nagging injury that can last for a very long time, talking months. And really, one of the best things that you can do for turf toe is actually rest it and let it calm down. But he obviously wasn't able to do that if he experienced the injury, middle or towards the later part of the season. And so, if the injury was not bad enough requiring surgery, still, the downtime after the season is what it requires for that to heal. And so it obviously was extensive enough that they have to actually go in there and repair that portion surrounding the toe that was torn.
Dr. Ben Woodhead's with us, Hail Varsity Radio at Jock Doc Wednesday, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. I've got a bit of a diagram in front of me here of the plantar plate, and I look at the tear, and you've got that big toe of his on the right foot, and the plate is kind of a giant section of bone as you get from the top of your toe to, the bones that go through the rest of your foot to your ankle. And this is a pretty severe region, that area right below your toes, kind of above your midfoot region. And man, that's something that when it comes to fixing, what's the best way to go about doing that? How does it happen from the procedure side of things?
Well, they go in there and they repair that plate. And to be honest, this is a surgery that, is really only done by people that are very subspecialized in foot and ankle surgery. A lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of foot and ankle surgeons that maybe not even doing this on a regular basis. He's going to Dr. Anderson, who, is a very commonly a foot and ankle surgeon that takes care of the most elite professional athlete sports injuries. And so I'm sure Dr. Anderson is doing this quite often. And, but he's going to go in there. He's going to repair the portion of the plate that is torn. I'm not entirely sure on his exact protocol, but I'm sure there's going to be an extensive amount of time where he's going to either be non-weight bearing or he's going to be in some type of boot and he's not able to move his toe at all, because if you move that toe too early, he's going to rip out the repair that Dr. Anderson has done. But that's a tough place in the body because unlike, after shoulder surgery, elbow surgery, or other areas that you can truly rest, that's an area of the ball of the foot where you're putting a tremendous amount of weight. Anytime you walk, anytime you push off, you're stressing that repair. And so, the biggest thing for Patrick going forward is, once it is repaired is, the healing time. There's really not a way to cheat out on the healing time. You really have to respect that portion of the rehab.
Dr. Ben, I'm looking at this, and when we talk about symptoms, we're talking tingling, burning, radiating nerve pain, and that travels throughout the foot, throughout the toes, not just that big toe Mahomes was trying to kind of deal with. I mean, that's a bad domino effect.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and it's not even just from the pain, the amount of power that, Mahomes has to do when he runs or when he cuts or when he jumps, anything like that is affected by that plantar plate and that turf toe injury. And when you don't have that basically functioning appropriately, you lose that explosiveness, you lose that power, let alone the pain and the symptoms that you're talking about. It's a terrible combination for somebody that is of his athletic caliber that relies on his feet so much.
It's also kind of a common overload injury, and just think of how many pass attempts Mahomes has had the last half of the season, specifically the playoffs, and that's your plant foot, man. I mean, it's amazing he's been as accurate as he is.
I know, and he can make any kind of throw possible. If you even remember the one where he was falling down, throwing into the end zone, and basically threw a sidewinder. And, to think that he's been doing that off of his plantar foot basically however many games for the last portion of the season is absolutely remarkable to think about.
So when it comes to recovery, let's get there with Patrick Mahomes and the torn plantar plate. We're looking 3 to 4 months, and, how do you get back to normal, or just like the old Mahomes? What's that regimen going to be like?
I think the most important thing is he's got to be adherent to the rehab protocol. You got to let the healing process take its course. Like I said, there's not a way to hurry that up, because the most important thing when you're repairing soft tissue is that you're requiring on that soft tissue to scar in and heal. And so you have to give that the 6 to 8 weeks that is required for the healing. And then once you get to that point where you do have scar and healing that's occurred, then you can start the rehab portion where you're actually working on the move and you're working on getting back to normal. But it's gonna be tough because his toe's gonna be stiff. He's gonna be, gradually working on getting that motion back, and then ultimately, he's got to get back to being able to sprint and towing off of that foot. Those are the biggest things that he's going to deal with going forward.
Dr. Ben Woodhead's with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday, as we're talking Patrick Mahomes, his torn plantar plate, that right foot, and he is had surgery today, and the rehab begins. Dr. Ben, thanks for taking time out and discussing this with us. We'll chat again soon.
Absolutely, Chris. Stay warm.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, a Wednesday edition, Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Must listen to Andy Markowski, Mike Babcock. Good stuff from George Darlington. Tomorrow on the show, Rick Pizzo, Big Ten Buffet, get his take on the Big Ten landscape. Gary Barnett will dive into quarterbacks and that topic. Brandon Vogel with us, and then the Pride of Chicago, Burke's Best Bet. A reminder, 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska, they're not wearing their seatbelt. So if used properly, a seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury up to 60%. Your best defense in any crash. Buckling up, brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. So we've done a lot of time on Tom Brady and his avocado tequila. We've dove into the quarterback situation, some nice offers for 2022. So what does 2021 hold for Tampa and Levante David? Levante's an incredible Husker, now a Super Bowl champ after 9 long years in Tampa. And it was a topic of conversation because a microphone was in front of Levante David post-boat parade. And here's how that unfolded.
I appreciate y'all out here. I want to be back. I want to be back. US ain't going nowhere.
There you have it. So Levante David's a free agent, just wrapped up a $54 million deal with Tampa as they extended him after his rookie deal. And you have Shaquille Barrett that needs to get paid. You have Levante David that needs to get paid. And Ndamukong Suh's out there. There's a slew of guys on offense as well. But Bruce Arians, B.A., went and made a beeline from behind Levante David to take the microphone. And you heard him. Your ass ain't going nowhere. So you got to do some juggling here if you're Jason Light. But you put it together once. You could probably do it again. And, this would be Levante's third contract. You make your retirement and generational changing money with that second contract. Sue's earned $160 million in his time. Shaquille Barrett's last couple of paydays have put him, this is pre-tax, mind you, and Tampa's a good... I think the Dolphins are going to come hard after Levante David. He's a Northwest Miami kid. Their defense was pretty incredible as is. he might be a missing piece. The thing is they're a 3-4. Now, he can do whatever he wants. He can play wherever he's at. It's pretty perfect, though, in this Tampa defense. And Bowens is really a hit, right? He's been a high-level defensive coordinator. And the thing about Levante is he's gone through head coaches. He's gone through coordinators. I mean, Raheem Morris is a guy that he loved. Schiano drafted him. That didn't last long. There's finally some stability with Levante.
My question is this the offseason where he goes and tries to cash in off this big season he just had? That's my question. I mean, he's making, I think, a little over $10 million a year right now.
He is. And what's fair for everybody? Levante's 31, but he's playing like he's still in his 20s. And he's not missing games. All right, back at it on a Thursday. Thanks for your time with Hail Varsity. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Have a good one.